Wu. Dr. Wu, is the plan to have the CASA application eventually pull the information for the initial risk assessment directly from the ECTD application?
Testing? Yeah. So the short answer is yes. So the overall idea is that CASA itself, as we described, the house itself is really more for FDA's internal usage, in the sense that how we document and assess the application, how we manage the knowledge, how we can do data analytics. But if you remember that specific picture, on the left-hand side, we have an envelope, right? So that's where the structured application will kick in. And our overall vision is that the structured information or structured application will be mobilized or operationalized through the PQCMC initiative. And so that's where we really need a lot of help from industry to help us out, to generate and submit structured information through the PQCMC initiative down the road, and then we'll compile that information through our internal data warehouse and push it into the CASA interface so that we don't have to manually or digitally transpose the information from you guys. We can have all the first few columns, if you can imagine, already pre-populated based on what you submitted through the PQCMC. And then our assessors will be mainly focusing our knowledge and energy on that quality assessment column or columns down to the right-hand side. So that's a little bit of the longer answer to that question.
Thank you. Microphone number one. Nice question.
My question is also about CASA. You said you were pulling in data from approved manufacturers. Is there a plan to eventually pull in data from all approved manufacturers, like acceptance criteria, or will it only be point forward?
That's a great question.
I'm from USP, so we would love it if the answer is the first one.
Yeah, we were facing that question. So right now, for our internal exploration, we have been retrospectively using some IT solutions in extracting information out of the existing applications, which are in PDF formats, most of them. So in the sense that we can have the raw data or initial data to further develop for development of CASA to make sure things are making sense logically and scientifically and continue to do risk assessment in the sense that we're building a model. We need to have a training data sets. So that's the existing data as being mobilized, operationalized through some IT solutions internally. But down the road, we're really working very closely with the PQCMC initiative down the road so that future applications, once the initiative is in place, and the industry will really submit that information, and then we can directly get that information into the CASA system for the future. So we are really, we are walking with two legs in parallel.
Okay, thank you.
All right, again, if there's any questions in the room, come on up to the microphones, but let's go to our next online question, please.
How are CASA and Q12 established conditions related, if at all?
So I'll take a step at this. Based on our current vision, or I would say our current thinking, as you can see, the EC or Q12 part of it, as Dr. Bhagwant Rege mentioned, a big chunk of it is about established conditions. Established conditions about critical control strategies, either specification or key CPP or KPPs and so on and so forth, or even the product composition table, for instance, right? So these are critical information, very key to the quality of the application or the product. So at least the one thinking is that such information in the future should be or can be structured and using that PQCMC initiative, which will establish the data structure, data exchange standards, so that all the established conditions or ECs will be submitted in that structured format. And then such information can be utilized by the CASA interface. So that's one way we see the connection between Q12 and CASA down the road in the near or midterm future.
Yeah, and down the road, when hopefully we can get established conditions incorporated to CASA, we can actually compare how different applicants are doing their development work. For example, if we see certain applications with large number of established conditions versus somebody where a very few number of established conditions have been approved, we sort of can supplementary assessor down the road can determine which of the applicants has done a lot of pre-development work in terms of their risk assessment strategies, which of the applicants have good product quality, pharmaceutical quality system in place. All of that can be compared across applications. So it will be very helpful for the assessors and FDA in general to sort of get a snapshot of a particular product line in terms of how they're managing changes.
Okay. Next online question, please, Ray.
How does an improved QoS fit into the CASA initiative?
The question is, how does an approved QoS fit into CASA, right? So, as we said in the ground rule, first of all, QoS is at least out of the scope of my presentation. And we're still, I guess, if we have some comments, maybe Ashley can help out. I don't want to misspeak on some of the initiatives we didn't discuss here.
Sure, I'd be happy to weigh in on that. So, as you heard from Jeff, CASA really is a place to be able to capture the information in a structured way and provide information and knowledge management to our assessors as they're looking at application. But there's still, for every individual application, I need to understand what the applicant's done in terms of how they develop the product. And so the QoS, the hope is that it really provides that foundation, and that as we move forward into the future, CASA then provides that structured way to capture the data, and then for the assessors to capture their thinking about what they've seen in the application. But the QoS is still needed to provide that context. So, okay, they've got this control strategy element. Is it adequate or not? We know what the risks are. We know that this can be a mitigation, but understanding how the applicant got there and what studies they did to suggest that that was an adequate mitigation could be part of that story that's told in the QoS.
Thank you, Ashley.
All right, and again, if there's any questions in the room, come on up to the microphone. But Ray, let's go to our next online question, please.
This question was addressed to Dr. Rege. Once ICH Q12 is final and the CDER guidance is published, please address the impact of these two documents on the use of comparability protocols. For example, will the comparability protocol guidance be revised?
So comparability protocol is one of the tools that is described in Q12 already. It's called post-approval change management protocol. So it is one of the tools, and it is part of ICH Q12 guidance. So the concepts behind comparability protocols, they are not going to change substantially. You can still prospectively propose the changes that you are planning to make with justifications in your application as part of your submission. So that's not really going to change. And in terms of guidance,
the guidance on comparability protocols will still be finalized, but it's been reviewed to make sure it's consistent with the concepts as described in Q12.
All right, we have somebody at the microphone, please. Nice and close.
Hi, thanks for your presentations. I just wanted to ask a question about CASA and the relationship between that and potentially the IDMP, Identification of Medicinal Products ISO standards that are being deployed in Europe. I think there is an expectation that there's going to be an implementation instruction and a timeline associated with it delivered next year. Is there something similar being planned for how we're going to implement that here?
So based on my knowledge, especially through the collaboration with the PQCMC initiative, I understand that they have a very close interaction with the European colleagues in working things out together. As far as I understand it, the PQCMC will or is evaluating some of the quality standards from the IDMP and try to incorporate and harmonize if all possible. But I don't know the specific timeline as I'm not deeply involved in that initiative. But overall, the two regions are working together fairly closely, as far as I know, from the data standards perspective. Yeah, so I would strongly recommend that you can reference one of our Federal Register notice from 2017. You can Google it using the word PQCMC. And also we have a Federal Register notice published back in 2018 calling for a public meeting for also the keyword is PQCMC. And we have a few public presentations out there and talking about data standardization from DIA conferences and even AAPS. So you may be able to reference some of the slides if they are publicly available.
Okay, thank you.
Another online question, please, Ray.
How does FDA see ICH Q12 impacting the submission of changes in countries not involved in ICH Q12?
So I think this Q12 initiative started a while ago, and since it started, a number of countries have joined ICH, at least as an observer. So we hope that adoption of this guideline in ICH regions will encourage those countries to take a look at it and hopefully move towards adoption, maybe on a longer time frame. But as I said, it does require some foundational work in terms of adoption of Q8, Q9, and Q10. So hopefully the countries that are not involved with ICH will also move ahead and gain those efficiencies that are envisioned in Q12. But again, I cannot speak for those other countries.
All right. And while somebody in the room answers their phone, we'll take our next online question, please.
Are there any post-approval guidance for industry for BLAs similar to the changes guidance for NDAs and ANDAs?
I'm going to ask Ashley to address that. I'm not involved in biologics.
I'm not sure if this is a complete answer, but I do know there are two guidance documents related to annual reportable changes for biotech products, both for specified and non-specified biological products. Both CDER and CBER work together on those two, and it talks about changes appropriate for submission in annual report.
Microphone number one, please.
Do you anticipate that entry of information into CASA structured format will replace entering the same information in the typical Module 3, or will we have to do it in both places?
So the overall idea based on our current thinking and vision is that the submissions will still go through the gateway, but going through the PQCMC initiative, in a sense, instead of being a PDF documents, and there will be I think there will be a new submission format in the sense of following the data exchange structure. So in the sense, each of the data elements will be discrete elements, so that things will be coming into the system with identifiers going through a certain format. Eventually, we can directly use it for our CASA operation or application in that sense. So in other words,
It's not additional.
Applicants will need to submit only once, mainly through the PQCMC initiative, as we're envisioning right now. And the CASA will pull information from what you have already submitted and do our own assessment in-house. Yeah.
Okay, next online question, please, Ray.
This question is addressed to Dr. Rege. Dr. Rege, where in the submission will sponsors declare the ECs for the product?
I assume it will be in the cover letter, Ashley, or?
We just need to get Ashley mic'd, I think. That's all right.
So the ICH Q12 document generally recommends Module 3.2R, but acknowledges in certain regions that may be different. FDA's current thinking is 3.2R will be the appropriate place to provide that product lifecycle management document that contains the established conditions. And as Bhagwant indicated, we'll be asking that in the cover letter you let us know that you're proposing established conditions, so we make sure that we locate them. There's not any confusion about, well, we sprinkled a few here and there, and why didn't you find them FDA? So.
Yeah, the details will be in the regional section 3.2.r, but you will let us know in the cover letter that they are there.
Okay, we just got a few minutes left, so if you have questions in the room, come on up to the microphone, but let's go to our next online question, please.
Are excipients, specs, and methods considered ECs?
I guess it's up to the applicant to, it's not like a blanket statement with whether they will consider ECs or not ECs. So the applicant has to do their product development, do the risk assessment, and see if any particular excipient property is critical to product performance and how they've studied it, and then they have to justify whether it's an EC or non-EC, and then FDA will assess it and then approve the proposal. Okay, and I'm getting waved off by my catcher there in the back of the room that there are no more online questions. It's looking like that's the same here in the room here as well. So please help me thank our two panelists.